Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Shane Walsh podcast. So, these this podcast is going to be on a three-letter sentence that I think a lot of people have probably heard a coach in inverted commas say, and it's why a lot of people will get stuck, a lot of people will struggle, and then beat themselves up for it, rather than blaming those three words. And that word is I've completely banned from my coaching vocabulary. And if you've ever been on a weight loss journey, you've probably heard it more times than you can count. And it's that sentence of trust the process. And I think a lot of people will have heard it because it's what a lot of people will just say. And look, I get it. I get it when coaches say it. It seems to be reassuring. It seems to be helpful. It's meant to be coming from people when things get hard. It's meant to be coming across as helpful. But the thing is, it's also one of the laziest and most unhelpful ways things can help someone to actually change and actually stick to things a little bit more. So what I want to do today is I actually want to break this down a little bit further, and why I'll never tell a client in order to trust the process, and what I actually do and help them to do instead. Because if you're working with a coach right now, or if you're thinking about hiring when you're sitting on the fence, you deserve to know what real support will look like. So, reason number one why people say why trust the process. It's easy for me to say is a problem is because it's lazy coaching. Plain and simple, black and white, lock it away, case done. When I tell someone to trust the process, what I'm really saying is, whether I realize it or not, is I do not want to help you because I do not know or do not want to dig deeper into what's actually happening for you right now. It's a conversational exit ramp. It gets me as a coach off the hook from understanding what's blocking your progress, why you're struggling. And that hard work, I have no interest in doing because that's literally my job. Real coaching gets down to why someone is struggling. It gets me to ask better questions so I can actually help someone. It helps me to get to sit down with someone in their biggest struggle and kind of look and say, let's figure this out together. That's why every single one of my one-to-one calls or clients gets a one-to-one call with me a couple of times a month, plus the WhatsApp support, rather than just having WhatsApp support. And it's not just keep doing what you're doing and hope for the best. No direction. It's like telling someone to drive to Connemara with no directions or map or Google Maps at all. Because what this trust the process actually sounds like to an individual, your concerns don't matter. Your questions aren't important. Just follow the plan and stop bothering me. AKA, don't be at me. And I know that's not what most people, most coaches intend, but it's how it lands for an awful lot of people. And I've heard this from clients. It kind of feels like a fob off. Kind of feels like, you're bothering me. Don't bother me. But it impacts more than people actually lead on. But so when someone comes to me and says, hey, I've been following everything perfectly and the scale hasn't moved in a couple of weeks, or the scales is moving, it's just not going down quick enough, I don't say just trust the process. A lot of them will say trust the process. I say, let's look at your data. Let's talk about your stress. Let's talk about your adherence. Let's talk about your sleep. Let's talk about your menstrual cycle. Let's talk about your perimenopause. Let's talk about your stress, your stuff kind of going on in your life, and let's figure out what's going on. That's coaching. The other things, that's just dismissal with motivation, with the motivational bow wrapped around it. Number two is it makes people feel enough like invisible. And this one hits hard for an awful lot of people because you feel like you're doing everything right and you're not seeing the changes. Or you're getting a little bit impatient with the scales. You're only a pound down in a week. You're only 2 pounds down in 2 weeks. You're only 4 pounds down in 4 weeks. Or it could be that you're really struggling and you're battling cravings every single night because you're exhausted, lack of sleep, lack of boundaries, which increases your stress. Menstrual cycle, you're not eating enough during the day and trying to survive on 12 or 1300 calories. or you're restricting things because it's not what we know how, or we're tracking calories and we're leaving things out because we're afraid we're going to be given out to. Trust the process doesn't help someone feel understood. It does the exact opposite. It sends the message that their specific struggles do not matter, that you should just push your concerns aside and keep going no matter what. That what you're experiencing isn't valid. Your life, your stress, your overwhelm isn't valid. People panicking around the weighing scales isn't valid. That's not support. That's invalidation dressed up as encouragement. And the thing that people can tell, and here's the thing that people can tell the difference. They can feel when you're actually listening, when you're just placating them or just kind of nodding along. And when they feel unheard, they feel disengaged. When they feel disengaged, they feel discouraged, and they stop being honest with you. They withdraw. They stop asking for help. And then we wonder why people will say, I fell off the wagon, even though the wagon's like my hairline. It doesn't exist. They didn't fall off. They were never really on it in the first place because it's a metaphorical out. They didn't know what to do, which isn't their fault. Your job is to teach them. My job is to teach you. And there will be times you have the wobbles. I actually, in a weird sadistic way, I actually prefer when my clients struggle at the beginning because it speeds up the journey long term when life is busy or they have weekends away or whatever it might be. But here's the thing, people can tell the difference. They can feel when you're actually listening. So instead of actually trying to say, I trust the process, I ask questions, I validate, I acknowledge what they're experiencing in real life. Their kids are sick, life is stressful, what actually matters. And then we work together to actually address and say, right, maybe it's something like for this week to go, well, what needs to happen? Is it one thing that needs to happen? Rather than listing out 3, 4, 5, 6 different things. Because feeling seen, that's not a luxury in coaching. That's what people are signing up for. Number 3 is ignores the process might actually need adjusting. And this is huge. Some people are suited to counting calories and others are not. Not every approach works for each individual. Some people need different approaches. What if the actual process that you set up in the first place is the problem? Maybe the calorie deficit is too aggressive. Maybe if they're binge eating, they need to work on that. Maybe the training program doesn't account for their lack of sleep. Maybe the meal timing that you've just Googled off ChatGPT doesn't match your work schedule and it's unrealistic. Maybe the person doesn't know what protein is and they struggle with that. These are the real issues that require solutions, not just platitudes, not just another high protein recipe book. I'll be honest with you. Some coaches fall in love with their systems. They create methodology and then they try to fit it into every single client because that's the way they work it or that's what they've been told. When it's clearly not working. And when it doesn't work, instead of questioning the system, they question the client. You're not being consistent enough. You don't want it enough. You're lazy. You've no willpower. You don't want this enough. Try harder. Or, worst of all, trust the process. But a good coach, in my opinion, knows that we need to dig in a little bit deeper and kind of say to yourself, right, what's actually going on in their lives? Not dig deeper and go a little bit more calories or reduce your calories. It's the other way around. Figure out what's the blockade. So if something isn't working, we don't just push harder. We don't just go 160 kilometers an hour rather than 80 kilometers an hour on the road just to push harder, to get there quicker. It already normally ends up in a car crash. This is the exact same way. We adapt, we adjust, we try a different approach because there's no prize for suffering. The goal is to find a sustainable way for you to do this, livable. And this brings in number 4, and probably, in my opinion, the most important. It removes agency. It removes agency. Think about it. Weight loss, real sustainable weight loss actually requires you to become an expert on how you actually operate as a person, to notice patterns without judgment, to make connections, to develop self-trust. But when someone tells you to trust the process, what they're really saying is, don't think about it, don't question it, just do what they say. And that keeps you kind of dependent on external validation instead of actually helping you to kind of become a little bit more intuitive with yourself and what works for you long term. Because the truth is, I'm not going to be here at every single meal. My job isn't to be here at every single meal. It's to help you and to guide you. But it also has to lead to a level of autonomy that works for you. Like, I'm not going to be in the kitchen with you when you're stressed and you feel like just kind of going ham in the kitchen. I'm not going to be there when life throws a curveball and routine gets disrupted. My job is to give you the trust and to help you develop the skills. It may feel like you want to just get a meal plan and be off with it. And that's cool. That is cool. But it's not what you need. It's like buying a glass hammer. My job is to help you to notice when something isn't working and have the tools and provide the tools for you to adjust it. To understand when cravings may ramp up, why cravings are probably giving your body feedback that you're either stressed, hormones might be at play, more tired, stressed, anxious, worried. And trust the process undermines all of this. And it positions me as the authority and you as the follower. And that's not a relationship that's going to help anyone long term. So if you've been told trust the process as a coach or by a coach, I want you to ask yourself a few really, really important questions. Do you feel heard in your coaching relationship? Are your concerns taken seriously? Is your coach willing to adapt the plan when something isn't working? Are you learning how to trust yourself, or are you learning how to be more dependent on your coach? Because these answers matter. So if you're someone that's out there, or you have a coach, or you are a coach listening to this, I want to challenge you. The next time you're about to say, trust the process, please stop. And if you're someone who's trying to lose weight and you're saying, well, I just need to trust the process, you're disregarding what lessons you've learned. You're disregarding what you may need right now. You're disregarding your own agency. And it might be impatience that's creeping through. There's no one size fits all approach. That's why every single one of my clients gets an individual structure, an individual one-to-one call with myself. We collaborate, we work together, and we figure it out together what works for them. Not just here's a piece of paper, off you trot, which unfortunately is what a lot of the fitness industry is right now. So if this has helped you in any shape or form, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a DM on social media, leave a comment on the YouTube channel, Shane Walsh Fitness. If you know someone who needs this, or maybe they're working with a coach that's keep dismissing their own needs or concerns, let us know. If you want to work with me on a one-to-one basis with your coaching, pop me a DM or click a link on the show notes and we can book in a free one-to-one call. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you had a great day.